Hello, good evening and welcome to our front. Today, we begin our review of year 2017 with the biggest campaign that probably got the biggest result under the Akufo administration. In fact, many have said it is perhaps the most coordinated approach to dealing with what was becoming our biggest nightmare. Over a period of 2 years, we saw water bodies that were clean to be heavily polluted. There was a massive rush, a massive cry as dams were being shut down, as so much was being attributed to this particular scourge. That's to do with the Galamsey menace in this republic. A minister was appointed to deal with the problem, and he took the bull by the horn. Then it became a big national campaign. Some months down the line, we are asking the question again. How far have we come with our attempts to fix what was a problem we created for ourselves, of course, with some foreign help? And also, what's the future of mining in Ghana? Are the repercussions of having to clean and get back our lands that we are forever going to lose out on mining, especially for indigenous Ghanaians who are predominating this particular Galamsey exercise? My guest today is the Honorable Minister who is in charge. Of course, Honorable is now a very disputed position, but really, he is Honorable. The Honorable Minister, which is in charge of Lands and Natural Resources. The Honorable John Peter, we hope you are doing well this evening.
I'm very fine, Raymond.
Wonderful. I mean, you perhaps will begin a award for the things you've done in the course of the year in your ministerial position, but it doesn't look like the fight is over yet. What's the status of the fight against illegal mining and Galamsey in Ghana today?
Well, thank you. And first of all, let me use this opportunity to say a very big thanks to the media fraternity, and also especially the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who, for some reasons, believe that the environment must be left in a better position for the purpose of intergenerational equity. He took the bull by the horn and said, look, guys, appointees, you must get involved in this whole issue of environmental cleanliness. And that was the beginning of the fight for the Galamsey. You will recollect that the state in which we met the water bodies, the river bodies, the land, the degradations, was a result of reckless, mining procedures that were adopted by some individuals, especially foreigners, with some culprits by our own citizens. Now, the attention, therefore, was to see how we, as a government, can sanitize the system. Don't forget, the MPP, as a party, clearly states in manifesto that we're going to regularize, the small-scale sector and make it more formidable and attractive for purpose of investment, and also make the environment more cleaner.
Okay.
And so, by so doing, we're not saying that Ghanaians should not mine, individuals should not mine, but they must mine in a more sustainable manner. The current practices, of course, is not sustainable, and that is why we've gone by that process. It's an ongoing fight. I can't say we have won the fight. We have made some, progress, but there's still a lot to be done. The media, of course, strongly behind it. So there's still a lot to be done in terms of how we're going to win this fight completely. But the good thing is that we have a strategy,
okay,
which we will be implementing going forward. Don't forget, the President put up a ministerial committee together to handle this. The mandate of the ministerial committee is, of course, ongoing, but there's a bigger framework to see how we can long-term solutions to the problem, which, of course, you are aware about. We may be trying to launch that program called the MMIP, the Multi-Sectoral Mining Integration Project, which, of course, will be launched somewhere in January. And that is going to be used on pilot basis to address this problem for the next 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, but that's interesting to note. To your mind, what would be the percentage of, what do you call it, fight strength and victory won in this particular case?
Raymond, that's a very difficult question for me. I would want to answer this question the day people who live around. I
mean, you've said this before, but we want to know whether we are winning or we are.
Yes, of course, substantial gains have been made, but I don't think extremely excited about the gain. I think that we need to do.
So have we, for example, recovered or actually cleared? What percentage of Galamsey operators have we cleared so far?
Thousands of them. Thousands of Galamsey sites have been closed down.
80%?
Even just yesterday, we've burned down almost about 350 floating productions platforms on the river bodies. But in total, over 700 floating platforms has been burned down. You know, more than 530.
These ones were the ones we were calling the FPSOs.
Yeah, those they call the those floating platforms. Yes,
the Galamsey FPSOs.
Precisely, and a lot more excavators have been taken out of sight. So a lot of impacts have been done, especially our concentration is on the river bodies, and so. But as I want to see clean rivers, clean water bodies.
But
we haven't got there yet.
My colleagues in the regions have reported that some of the river bodies are actually cleaning up.
Yeah, we want a total cleanup. It's clean up, so it's a progress, of course.
Okay. Just that there's also this report that some of the lands, even though the Galamsey people have left these areas, they cannot really do active agricultural production on these lands.
Yeah, basically because of the extent of the degradations, the distractions that was caused over the period. And so we need properly to reinstate the land, bring the lands back to its normal status. So that's why the process of reclamation, which we recently launched in the eastern region, the pilot reclamation program has been launched. It's to be undertaken, and maybe from January, you see some areas reclamation being done. But the extensive nature in terms of the cost, that's what is quite scaring. It's estimated that about between 4 to 5% of this Earth surface has been degraded through Galamsey activities. Taking Ghana to almost 238,000 kilometers squared of Ghana as a country, taking 4 or 5% of that. That's quite huge. And the estimates we're getting from the AESL in terms of the reclamation cost per hectare is very extensive. It's running in 200,000 of Ghana cedis per hectare to reclaim.
Oh, okay.
And so it's something we can put a figure on because those figures are quite scary. But we can start, as we progress.
Okay, I get that. So now there's an interesting part that we need to also clarify. There will be a plan, and you've actually said that the multi-sectoral improvement, what they call it, is also supposed to be implemented soon. But what's the sustainability plan in this case, going into next year?
Going into next year, definitely the small-scale miners, a lot of them have undergone some level of training. We will expect them to implement the type of training that they've gone to mining in a sustainable manner. So the small scale
undergone training.
Yes,
but they are complaining that you've actually taken their jobs. There's no
because we want to train
asking them to return back.
No. That's not the Ministry of Environment actually had taken them. It was responsible for that training program. So that training was done, as part of the Galamsey committee put together to undertake those exercises. So the training is done. I have met some of them, and they came to my office and said, look, having gone through this training, we expect to get more, increase our recovery rate. I'm telling you, in some of the tailings. But is it more expensive
to deliver the trained, what they call it, expertise on the grounds, or it's cheaper? So that we will know whether they have a financial reason to continuously degrade the land.
Yes, of course. Some of them might think that what they are doing is right. For example, if you are talking about even the recovery rate, what they are taking out from the tailings is, in some instances, is less than 10, 15%. Okay, with this training, some of them are telling me they can go as far as 30, 45%. Which means that if you have a ton of ore, instead of taking 10% out of it, which we process to get a gold out, now you should be able to go high to about 30%. So it means that you are going to get more gold from the same quantity of ore, that previously you might not be able to do as a result of training and the technology to be adopted.
So what's the number you have trained so far?
I think that we have gone beyond 500.
But there are more than 2,000.
Yes, of course. So what happened is that because the school, it's back to campus. This training is going to commence, I think, anytime soon after the Christmas. More badges will be admitted for training. And so as we train them and they go back, we receive new ones in and also train. So
the ban is still in place.
Definitely, the ban is in place.
When are you going to finally lift it?
That is a good question. Don't forget that the ban, the initial 6 months, elapses, and we added another 3 months, which is coming to an end somewhere in January. And so we expect that, of course, at the end of January, there is some form of auditing which is currently about going some of the licenses. And so we will definitely... Are
they likely to recommend a lifting of the ban?
Yeah,
or the opposite will happen?
Yes, definitely. We're going to recommend today to Cabinet, approval for the ban. And
what are the factors that are likely to lead to you say that, no, we've not achieved our aim yet, let's extend it for another period?
The factors are, number one, the level of cleanness of the river bodies, and also the number of people that have been trained, and also the validations of the licenses. If these processes have been completed, and the willingness for reclamation is well admitted, because this time around we expect them to go for some form of reclamation bond, put some small money down even before you get back your new license.
And you are convinced small-scale miners can do this?
Well, if you want to mine, and you want to mine in a sustainable manner, small-scale mining, they are making a lot more money than the big companies.
I see.
In 2015, they have made about 34% of the revenue output of the gold. So that is...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 34%. So it's
they're
a
not
big
small,
sector.
really.
It's not so cumulatively, their output is quite large.
Okay.
And then they're selling, of course, the golds at international prices, just as the large-scale company are selling. Again, they are not investing much capitals in terms of the big companies. So it's a sector that we can protect. Provided they work and work very well, we can protect and make sure that there are returns in terms of contribution to the economy.
Do you get the impression that they've lost a lot? Do you get the impression that they have virtually run out of business?
For the past 15, 20 years, some people's livelihood basically depend on this mining activity.
Okay.
If for one night they wake up and for about 6-7 months down the line, they don't have that income coming to augment what the household normally depend on, you should expect some level of, dissatisfactions and suffering. So yes, it is true. Some households, of course, will have a very significant negative impact as a result of the ban that we've imposed there. We know. But what we also have to examine is the cause and the terms of the externalities that is generated as a result of doing the wrong thing compared to the suffering of houses. The externalities is quite huge. You can't put cost on it. And so that's why we are appealing to them that they need to exercise a bit of patience, which of course they've done just yesterday. The Small Scale Association again were in my office. They are the guys actually who were fighting the comrades. They are the counterpart on the water bodies.
Oh, okay.
All the distractions of the equipment we've seen so far were done by the same small scale guys. They are willing that, well, of course, we need to take out... They
don't want their business destroyed by others.
Yes, of course, they don't want their business to withdraw. So just yesterday, we advanced some money to them, of course, and then they go back. There's this group also called Volunteers Against Environmental Degradation, VAED. They are doing perfectly on their own. So these two groups, of course, are helping to make sure, in collaborations, of course, with the military, and making sure that we sanitize the system. So the small-scale associations, of course, are collaborating with the ministry. Okay,
now, beyond these small-scale association, and the idea is to get them back to work because of the periods we have actually not been working for that particular time. The talk about sustainability brings in one other issue, compliance and enforcement. How are you going to ensure this happens on the ground? I mean, we have a very wonderful plan, but how are you going to ensure that they live by this plan?
Under the mining law, we expect to come out with what we call the mining communities. The district mining communities are supposed to enforce some of the regulatory mechanisms at the lower level. As I'm speaking now, since the act was passed, those committees have not been inaugurated.
2006?
Well, even before the 2006, the mining law was there. Yeah, we don't never have any mining communities. And so that's also a major cause of why we have these problems. So what we try to do now is to, put those mining district mining committees in place. We are expanding the number of the mining communities. We are creating new ones, and we are employing more mining engineers into those areas. We are bringing in what we call mining intelligence unit, and we're trying to procure some motorbikes and making their movement more, easy and accessible to the various sizes. We are procuring more vehicles for the region. So these are the things that will enable them to... You see the problem.
There's a group. There's a
problem. The basic problem.
The guys who were drunk on the grounds when you were going around, I've forgotten what the district mining officers.
District mining officers.
What's happening to that particular group?
Well,
you perhaps suspended.
Yeah. A lot of them were suspended.
So what happens to them now?
Well, we put a committee together to investigate their actions. So they brought a report. we have taken some of them back to, their various offices to work. Some of them, of course, were transferred to other places.
There were plans to increase their number.
Precisely, that is what we're doing now. We are now increasing the number of the mining engineers.
How many do we want?
We are now creating about an additional 12, and then we are adding 5, more regions, and then we are adding more resources in terms of vehicles and motorbikes to make their activities more valuable. Again, we are adding more people to the mining engineer, not the engineers themselves, but people to assist the mining engineers in the monitoring activities. This whole business of the
and they all work under the Minerals Commission?
Precisely. Of course, it's the structure under the Minerals Commission as a process of the decentralization scheme.
So, how many staff are we seeking to recruit in this case?
It's getting to almost about 300, if I'm right.
That's higher than the number of the, what they call less than 30 that you were dealing with previously.
Precisely.
Okay,
Precisely.
So now all of these will also be paid by minerals, what they call it, revenues?
Yes, will be paid by the Minerals Commission. And of course, their payment will be made through the Minerals Commission.
And do we have enough in the money for them?
Again, we expect that some of the small scale, under the law, they're supposed to be paying some kind of contribution to the Minerals Commission. So 5% royalty and other levies, of course, will also be levied on them. So we should be able to pay them.
Are they adequately compensated so that they will not fall? Because mining institutions are big. Galamsey was also a big business. So that they don't fall prey to being deceived by these Galamsey operators.
It is a good question. It's all about the training and then the educations and their rationale and understanding of the environment.
Okay.
So, of course, they know what they are coming to do, and we expect that they will not be able to
become agents of
convinced by the Galamsey people. Yeah.
The question related to that is then, going into the future, which is perhaps where we want to look at mining and all of the plans involved now. When are we starting the reclamation?
The reclamation is expected to start January. Some reclamations have already started. We have actually directed the forestry to make sure that some of the forests that were degraded, they should make efforts to reclaim those forests.
At Tiwa Forest?
Not at Tiwa alone, across most of other places. Some selected forests were also degraded. Yesterday, the Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission wrote to my office demanding for some release of amount of money.
A resource to do the job.
Some of the jobs have been done and they need to pay some of the stuff. So the reclamation, of course,
funding is an issue that ought to be adequately dealt with if you can sustain this practice.
Of course, sustainability will depend on source of funding.
Do we have access to adequate funding?
Funding, in terms of adequacy, it's always a problem. I mean, you cannot have enough, but the little you have to make good use of it.
What is it little? I mean, this is a very big project.
It's a big problem. Project. I mean, I agree.
If the president has commitment to this, we want to see we put our money where our mouth is, isn't it?
Precisely. I think the president is still committed to this cause, and definitely funding will be made available.
For the 2018 budget, how much have we dedicated to doing reclamation alone? Specific budgetary allocation. I have a copy of the budget before me anyway.
This is a good question. Under the budget, we have contingencies.
Yes.
Funding. So,
but reclamation is not a contingency.
I agree with you. The World Bank, actually, we're having a discussion with World Bank, and they have plans are far advanced for, I think, about some $10 million, which we're going to be released.
How much would you need for the entire reclamation exercise?
I can't put cost on it because it's in millions of millions.
But 10 million will then be a drop in the ocean. Anyway.
It's good as a starting point, to start. We also have some money that will be released by the finance, ministry, so we can start. We are also putting together a fundraising committee. The Australian government is supporting that. We're going to launch that somewhere in early January. And other donors, in terms of supporting donors, are interested in putting money. We've spoken to some mining companies who are more willing to contribute money. So we are looking, apart from government, we are also looking beyond other sources of funding.
There was direct plan and commitment by the Chinese to support this. Of course, I mean, all the other expatriates that are supposed to be in this particular case, the Chinese were more than the other grouping. What is the commitment of the Chinese to helping us undo the damage that some of the assets did in this country?
I think the Chinese embassy is highly committed towards this program.
How much are they committing?
They've already started a program of training, also with some Ghanaians. But in terms of hard
no,
cash,
we're talking about
but I want to say they want
to
look at the case, broad-based and see how they can resolve from all angles. In terms of money being donated to this project, because we have not opened the fundraising environment yet, they've not been able to put anything. But I'm sure immediately we
but
do
they
that.
make commitments to give us
they have shown
money to undo the damage.
They have demonstrated that they will be able to support.
Yeah. Okay, but that's also interesting. How many years would you want to do this reclamation?
The reclamation cannot be done in the next 10 years, cannot be finished in the next 10 years.
It looks like then it's a very long-term project.
It's going to be an ongoing process. The reclamation, I think, is going to be an event on its own.
We didn't arrest these people. We didn't arrest these small-scale miners, did we?
We did arrest a lot more. A lot number of them were arrested.
But I've not seen many being put before court.
I agree with you. Our judicial system, in terms of the legal procedures to address some of these concerns, have to go through processes.
Okay.
And so I'm aware those processes are going on. But let me say a very big thanks, and I'm extremely excited about what the Chief Justice has done.
She set up specific courts for that?
Yes, of course. Setting up our 14 special courts for this. I mean, it's unheard of.
But it's interesting. Perhaps the most important part is whether or not we have gathered enough evidence to have successful prosecution.
Yeah, she has played her role, and so she's expected on others to make sure that their role is being played. And so I think that the trials are ongoing, in most of the areas.
Because I know it's the Chinese and co. The Aisha One case is still in court. I know, and I know that a couple of cases are also being done in the eastern, in the western region too, Precisely. And those ones are known. But the numbers we are talking about, who we knew were still involved in this exercise, it doesn't look like it matches the kind of prosecution we are seeing. No, see,
Romo, what normally happens is that some of those guys are not arrested. They run away. And that is why we are able to take.
Is that the more reason why they may just come back one day?
And that is why we are, as much as possible, making sure that some of those floating platforms are being destroyed, some of the equipments are withdrawn. So they are not able to arrest some of them. Some of them, that the few that are arrested, are asked to pass through the
There is something
legal
that
process.
Dr. Enin said. He said, we are not getting to the bottom of the matter because we are not arresting the people behind the operators on the ground.
I agree with you.
Have we made any plans of doing so?
It's quite difficult to do that, and even in instances that you may try to do it, the obstacles are quite.
Are the people way too powerful?
This game is a very complex game. Involving a lot more people. The media fraternity. Big media men are also involved. Big politicians are involved.
No, this one, you are accusing our stock of, we are not Galamsey operators. Except you have evidence that suggests that specifically people are...
It is Ghanaians. Media men are Ghanaians. So it's...
this one, you are just opening the envelope to involve us when clearly...
There are big people behind this
Can you name names?
If I have names, I'll be more willing to name them.
But then, why do you start for the media?
No. That's politicians. The chiefs are involved.
I agree, politicians, chiefs.
Yeah, media.
And some of them have been specifically dated.
Big media men are involved also.
That one I cannot.
Media journalists, big men are also involved with this. So,
but you cannot name a single journalist who has a concession in this country.
Just as we know that big politicians are involved, and difficult to name them. But some of these things, it's a difficult process. Yeah.
But is that not where the sustainability will be a challenge? Because these people just will have to gather resources and get back to recruiting fresh people to do what they used to do.
Well, you see, we are not against them mining. And so when they want to come and mine in a sustainable manner, we open our arms to them to receive them to do it. That is all. The law says if you need to mine, these are the process that you need to go through. And at the end of your mining period, this is what you have to do. Are
there plans to get the people who are part of the problem, as in the guys who destroyed the lands, to be part of the reclamation?
Yes, that is why I spoke about the reclamation bond that we're going to put
on. So into the future.
Into the future.
Not the ones they destroy.
No, those that are destroyed. Sometimes it's even difficult to identify the people who were there, especially the illegal ones. Those who have the concession legally through the minerals commissions, because of their names, we will be able to identify them. And of course, they are willing to reclaim. And in most cases, as I speak now, some of them are reclaiming. But those that don't have the license and just jump onto the site and look for gold, they run away and you can't trace them. There's no record to know that this is where they are working. And so the difficulty is bringing those people back, to reclaim those areas. Yeah.
You said you buy drones. Where are the drones?
Yes, we have signed an MOU with a number of companies to purchase some drones. We have done some cost evaluation, about the various types of drones. So definitely we're working.
Have we selected a company to do so?
We have not actually. So far, we've signed about 3-4 MOUs, but we've not actually selected any company.
Have you gone to procurement?
We're now going to go through a procurement openly, and then do a competitive tendering for the specification that we want.
How much do you estimate it's going to cost us?
The highest drone that we have, which is of course the jet drone, in terms of those people who had come to do presentation, it's ranging in millions, 3 million, 2.5 million. We have as low also as 200,000, 300,000.
Are these special drones?
These are very special drones.
There are drones on the market.
There are drones in the market, $40,000, yes. $50,000.
Even cheaper than that.
Cheaper than that. But these are unmanned area vehicles that we're talking about. Big as this room can do a lot of, programs together. Not only for the mining in terms of the Galamsey, but can also collect data for the forestry, collect data on the river bodies, and even the military, and the air forces.
So when can we come to a decision on when we're going to get these drones?
Again, that's a good question. I'm sure after launching the MMIP, we should be narrowing down to a specific, through the tendering processes, a specific.
This brings me to the multi-sectoral mining, the big plan, actually, the big plan for the sector. When is it going to be rolled out?
The big plan will be launched in January. The multi-sectoral mining integration project will be launched in January. We have put in a lot of measures in terms of the roll-up and the implementation, application of the satellite imagery. We're talking to companies that will be doing the tracking devices. We have had several discussions with the mining companies for the relinquishment of their concession.
In any case, when you say tracking devices, you're talking about these excavators and stuff like
that. Precisely. And don't forget,
forgive me, the plan is that all excavators brought into the country will be tracked?
Not brought into the country. That would be very good, but those that want to work in a mining construction will be licensed and tracked.
Okay.
Yes. But somebody may bring his excavator purposely for road work.
Yeah.
We don't have anything to do with
control over
that. But if you want to work,
but somebody may bring it with the intent to use it for road work, but may end up on a Galamsey.
Yeah, if you want to go to a Galamsey site, you need to have a license for it before it gets there. If it doesn't have that license, of course, the excavator can be evacuated or seized.
Since we are talking about excavators, what's happening to the hundreds that you've seized so far?
Well, some of them are still packed. There are processes even to the confiscations of this.
Yeah,
the courts have to
give
you the necessary procedures. So that is why we've been held on. So, this country is ruled by law.
Yeah.
And we cannot take unilateral decisions.
Are people challenging the confiscation of their properties?
Oh, of course, those excavators have been held, some in various police stations. People are still demanding that it is their right to go for them. And the police, in most cases, are also using this as an evidence. And so, so there are processes. We cannot just say, okay, we've confiscated.
Sorry, has the burning stopped? The military men who were deployed to some stations were burning some of these excavators. Has it stopped?
I think they stopped now.
Okay, and they follow the rules.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. The idea, and I don't know whether you have an update on that, they were told by the defense minister that they were going to get to the bottom of the matter on why they decided to unilaterally do this, especially the commander on the grounds on the Operation Vanguard team stated that. Do you know what's happened to that?
I tried the judgment of the minister, and that discussion, I think, is ongoing to establish the fact.
But because I've not heard any...
I think because they have probably not established the fundamental principle that triggered that. And so I think immediately that report is out, the minister will come to inform the public accordingly.
When we return from this break, we will talk about the future of mining in Ghana. Are Ghanaians supposed to be predominating in that particular sector? Not as illegal miners, but as substantive miners in this area. And are we getting enough from mining? After the break, with the minister in charge of lands and natural resources. You're welcome back. This is UPfront. My guest today is the Lands and Natural Resources Minister. It's the 2017 perhaps biggest project of the Akufo-Addo administration, the one that was not postponed to the next year. This is the fight against Galamsey. It was in earnest. There was huge support for it. Today, we are counting what's been the success so far and what's going to be done going into the new year. Now, lots of discussion has been centered on the Galamsey fight and what's happening in that particular space. Let's shift a little bit and look at the bigger space of mining in Ghana. Now, the Honorable Minister would have to tell us who are the ones who are predominating in the mining sector in Ghana today? External people, indigenous Ghanaians, or people who are doing collaborations with Ghanaians?
Well, thank you. Don't forget, Ghana is second to South Africa in terms of the output of gold mining within the continent.
Yeah.
And in Ghana especially, we've been doing this for the past 100 years.
Yes. I also understand
I think that
its GDP contribution has never exceeded the 6%. Precisely. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's still going up. And in our first quarter of this year, GDP contributions, the mining still was leading. I always say that if you quantify the amount of gold taken out from Ghana, it's quite more than what is taken out from Joburg. But if you match the development, you rightly see to yourself what happens in South Africa than what we see in Ghana, which simply supposes that the people involved actually taking the development and undertaking the mining in Ghana are not Ghanaians. Yeah. Surprisingly, there is no single mining company in Ghana that does mining. There is no Ghanaian indigenous mining company for the period of 100 years.
Really? Up to now?
There's none.
All the ones with Ghanaian names are not Ghanaian.
No, which one?
I hear Hahafo. I hear Goldfields. Are they not Ghanaians?
No. These are not Ghanaian mining companies.
So
we're talking of indigenization in terms of Ghanaian bread, Ghanaian coming up to that extent. We don't have. A company may come to register in Ghana. That doesn't make the company a local company.
Okay, that's
I'm talking of Ghanaian born coming up with an initiation, raising a mining company to the extent
why is
we
that
are
the
witnessing.
problem?
It's because I think as a country, we don't want to support our own. Because for all these years, there have not been any program laid down by any government at all to support mining companies or to support Ghanaians to get that level. It is until recently, before President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo brought a program called the National Supply Development Program. And this program was passed by, cabinet. The understanding of its concept is that the National Supply Development Program must bring up Ghanaians, conscious effort of bringing up Ghanaians to the level of international companies. Don't forget, in the 1996-97, I was quite young, but the then Rawlings has a program of enhancing the capacity of local companies. And that program, most Ghanaian companies were given what we call the ECDG loan facility, £5 million at that time. I was then a young engineer. That program was what helped most of the major companies that we've seen today. This was done under President Rawlings' regime to enhance the capacity of Ghanaian construction companies.
Some 20 years down the line.
Yes, I remember it very well because I was a young quantity surveyor at that time. And so since then, we haven't seen anything. And in the mining company, until President Nado is coming out with this concept of National Supply Development Program to bring it. So it means that because we have left the companies, we have left our own people without any concern and asked them to build their capacities on their own. That's why we haven't had the results.
Of the Accra mining network, was it better for Ghanaians or expatriates?
Well, these are all expatriates that have dominated the system. I mean, and they come in huge in their numbers in terms of their capacity, dominate the local content.
So
and
the biggest problem, biggest problem was that we didn't have the money?
Not that we don't have the money. Government conscious effort was missing.
Oh, okay.
Government must, you see, if you have an intention and you just leave that intention, good intention as may be, to the hands of the locals without any push or any action plan behind it, it will not work. Today, as we speak, most of the oils in Aberdeen, Scotland, the holes are dry holes because you don't forget in the 70s, Aberdeen and Co were coming out of almost 1.something million barrels of oil. But today, the wells are down. They are blowing up about 20,000 barrels a day from about 1 million in those days. But what have they done? They managed to build the capacity of those individuals and the various companies. Today, those are the companies that are providing services in emerging countries like Ghana and other places. We have mined for almost 100 years. We should be able to provide these services to new countries, emerging countries, you know, like the Mali, the Ivory Coast, and all those that are coming in the mining sector. We have lost this for all these years. So we must be extremely thankful to this government for coming up with the National Supply Development Program.
So what does that mean for the ordinary person who wants to go
The
into
National
mining?
Supply Development Program is going to be a conscious effort by government to build the capacity of Ghanaians to an international standard in terms of the mining sector.
Does not necessarily mean you're giving me money, you're giving me
not at all
skills.
Not at all. We're going to give you skills, we're going to give you training. It's going to be a form of a mining hub to be created.
When is it going to start?
Oh, it's a process. It's on starting. We're recruiting an expert from the African Mining Development Center, you know, for support from United Nations to help this. So this is already ongoing. I mean, and it is expected that this program will enhance the capacity of the Ghanaians. We have heard over the period that there's something like a local content. But this local content thing we're talking about, it's just a list of 17 items or 19 items put on the list to make sure that Ghanaians supply. That is not local content. You know, we cannot have an item on our own and you'll be saying that it's local. What's local about? We own the resources.
Yeah, of course.
So we should be talking about the foreign content. The foreigners are coming for the resources and we want to talk about local content.
Because of the predomination of the place by the people on the other side, we are rather creating opportunities for ourselves within that sector.
If you go to Sudan itself, there's no large mining company in Sudan. The Sudan is doing mining. All their minings have been taken by the locals, small-scale mining. That is what they are doing. And we have exposed ourselves all to the foreigners, excuse me by my word, to take out these resources without a benefit. What had been the benefit in terms of contribution? The GDP is fine. But to the pocket and the household of the various mining companies and their homes, what has been what evidence do we have that if you go to Obuasi today, you will tell me that this is what mining has left?
They are actually suffering. They are worse off than they say to many people.
They are worse off. But look at where the goals are being taken out to for processing. As I speak today, Ghana, we don't have a refining policy. We have a goal, we don't refine the goals in this country, and we allow it to be taken out to another country. This government is saying enough is enough. The president is so sure that as Ghanaian, we must be able to do it. He asks, can't a Ghanaian do it? And that is because he believes that Ghanaian must do it. Ghanaians are the best people to address their own problem. If you have a Ghanaian company that has been doing mining for an external person, why can't that company say go into the mining?
Are there any?
I mean, I can understand.
Are there any?
Well, we have few of them, engineers and planners, Rockshore. Those are some of them. But these are companies that go and do the mining for the international company. What they do is the mining, but they don't own the mines. They don't own the mines. They get the mines and then they bring them out to go and work for them. They don't own it. So these companies also must begin to own the mines. Somebody get a concession and ask you to come and work for me. It's better you own the concession or sell and extract the gold. And Ghanaians will be in a better position to refine the gold because when we sit down and talk with them, they will be able to do it.
It boils down to the capacity and the cash required. Do we have that?
Well, these companies are not getting the cash from their various homes. Some of these companies float on a stock exchange. And that is why people pay in. So Ghanaian company must also learn to float on the stock exchange. There are a lot of international stock exchanges that are training that we want companies to buy into. And so, you see, the difficulty, which of course I understand, is that we like the concept of, let me do it alone. This company belongs to me and I got it from my great and grandfathers and I want to handle it in my own small way. We are not thinking big. We need to think beyond that and float companies out internationally for people to buy in so that Ghanaians can seem to be championing the cause of those companies. I mean, these are some of the things that we can do.
But that's interesting to know. Won't we have coalition calls with international big interest companies?
Oh, of course, those ones will always come in for those companies. But they have their interest. We must also have our interest. Right. Even if we try to make sure, for instance, in the oil, the mining sector, where Total, Shell have dominated the supply of oil to all these mining companies for this year. Any attempt to make sure that Ghanaian companies get this supply, you will see some of the international
the reactions are there.
I mean, we don't have to listen to them. Why do we have to listen to them? They either come and work with us or they find their way and get out of it.
I know there's a renewed talk. Even the president talks about Ghana beyond aid and all of that. But realistically, can we do this?
We can do it. We can do it. This president is determined. And the president believes that we can do it.
Okay.
Nanado knows that we can do it. And that's why he says we must go beyond the aid.
Well, one action that I expected to see some action on is the status of the review and the renegotiation of stability and mining agreements. What is happening to those ones?
Well, those agreements that have been negotiated, the recommendations have been implemented in most of those cases. One of the major content that we pick from the Akilakpa's report is the fact that stability agreement, of course, on its own, cannot be generalized.
Okay.
Because as a country, we will have our own sovereign rights. And so somebody cannot come because of his IDA and impose a total stabilization. What it means is that even if you want to come out with your own laws in terms of environmental laws, because of the stabilization, they will say that no, the new law will not be applied to this contract because of the stabilization. We say no, that's not going to happen. Stabilization can be in terms of fiscal terms. And so because the investment in terms of this company are long-term investment with huge capital, it is expected that they must have a steady inflow of capital. And so if, for instance, you charge your fiscal terms in terms of the royalty, well, of course, we all agree that your royalty must run through the contract period. So stability can be for those particular items. But where you generalize the stability on the contract itself, then that, of course, doesn't work. But there are clear instances, for instance, in the United Kingdom, where there are, fiscal regime between 1985 and 2009, they have changed their fiscal terms for more than 12 times. So, yeah, of course, they change it.
It's not a sign of instability.
Yes, of course, they don't see the extent of stability in their contract. And so they have changed it.
I see.
And so if mature regimes are able to change their fiscal terms as quickly as often, what about we are mature?
What's our decision in that direction?
Yeah, we can also do it. And so,
are we doing it?
Yes, of course. And so in some of the new agreements that we're looking at and new companies that will come on board, we are saying that we're not going to give you a blanket stabilization.
Is there any existing company that we've reviewed our terms with? Reviewed terms?
No, the Akil Akpa Sawyer's report, of course, was meant to review some contracts.
Yes.
And those contracts, of course, have been reviewed. Yes.
I see.
Yeah, they have been
And
reviewed.
they are not complaining?
No, of course, they know this, the instances and the reasons why those contracts were reviewed. So I don't think there was any.
So we are no longer getting pittance for the mining that people do on our lands and the degradation that they bring on board.
Come again?
We are no longer getting very small. Are we now getting a chunk of the mining cash?
Well, you see, that is why I'm saying that the mining industry, we should not actually be doing rent seeking.
Okay.
Rent seeking in terms of looking for tax, looking for income tax, looking for royalties, looking for capital gain tax. That is not the gain. The gain in the mining sector is play along the value chain where people get involved. The multiplier effect, that is where it is. The number of people that goes into work and the people that really undertake the activity. And so if Ghanaians are really involved in terms of the mining, Ghanaians are employed in terms of the working output, Ghanaians are supplying and hauling the ore, Ghanaians are bringing in most of the items that are needed, then the gain, of course, will become very huge. So that we need Ghanaians to get involved in the value chain activities. If we do that, then the multiplier effect will be very, very huge to this country, rather than just looking at let's increase the tax, let's increase the royalties. Those gains, of course, are not anything that really benefit the owners of the resources.
I get your point, and we're concluding our conversation soon. And the crux of our conversation today is on the Galamsey fight. Also, because this is the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, we want to know what's happening to our natural resources in this republic. Now, mining is important. What's happening to this big talk about bauxite industry in Ghana?
The bauxite industry is a very interesting industry that we believe as a country can trigger growth and create a lot of economic linkages. The president thinks sincerely that we have made a lot of losses in terms of the minerals, gold, diamond, and other things that we have undertaken over the period. And so just as I was talking about, getting actual value along the value chain, the president thinks that we must do that this time. And so he's of the view that we should come up with an integrated aluminium bauxite, authority. This authority will seek to, get hold of the whole, bauxite right down from the upstream to the downstream. And that is where the benefits are. The bauxite itself, what is bauxite? Bauxite is laterite, it's the ore that you use to fill your house. That is it. It is only the content, the percentage of content that increases sometimes. That is why we seem to concentrate it. Apart from that, it's the laterite, the same as the laterite.
That's interesting.
Today as I speak, the laterite is trading in terms of the bauxite, the ore, it's almost about $55, $60 per ton. When you move from that to the next stage, which is the refined stage, alumina, it's about 360.
Oh, okay.
If you move from there to the aluminium itself, after smelting, what is it? It turns to about 600. So
we want to set up this integrated industry.
So what integrated industry seeks to do is that instead of just taking the ore and shipped it out of the country, $30 or $45 per ton, The president is saying that we must refine it. And again, he's saying that even after you refine it, you're not going to take it out, send it to the smelter.
Okay.
For the smelter to change it to aluminium. And even then, he's saying that after getting the aluminium, use the aluminium products in the country and then export some of the aluminium products
First,
outside.
When are we going to build these refineries?
Well, there's a committee that is working on it under the Office of the Vice President.
Which year
in collaboration.
will they start building refineries? Because that's the action that we want to see.
Cabinet has already given approval for the establishment of the authority. The bill to run the authority, it's maybe you go to cabinet in the next sitting, and so I expect by January we should see some concrete actions. There are a number of companies already that are doing a lot of due diligence, on the building of a refinery. I can count about 6 or 7 companies that so far have passed with my ministry, doing a lot of due diligence. So this is something the president wants to be done as quickly as possible. I can tell you it's one of his priority projects. And
I see.
This time around, we're going to see an integrated industry in terms of the bauxite happening in Ghana live.
In the last close to 50 minutes we'll be having this conversation, I've seen bold ambitions for a ministry. Do you have budgetary allocation that goes along with these bold ambitions?
You see, as a country and as a ministry, we don't necessarily have to.
If the ministries don't have money, that's what they start talking
and so you need to look
beyond. Running the scope. They say that they will find money.
The president says you must go beyond money. Aid. We must go beyond
yes,
aid.
But this is not aid. This is national resources.
You should look at the ministry's support to you as aid and begin to look at the alternative way. That is how we looked at it as a ministry. So though the resources will be minimal, we still looking beyond that. Do you have the amount
of money you require to do the job, the big visions that you have in this ministry?
Well, we will not have the maximum that we want, but we need to have something to carry.
What percentage have you been budgeted for?
Well, we've been given almost 346 million, I think 47 million, yeah. For the agencies the ministry has a lot of agencies. Yes. And this goes to the agencies and the departments under the ministry.
Sorry, does this include compensation and salaries too?
Yes, it includes compensation.
Then virtually have very little.
Well,
because that's where the chunk of the money goes anyway.
We will manage it, yeah.
Now, when you say you manage it, are there realistic ways of getting money to do these jobs?
For instance, to establish the authority, for instance, there's some allocation in the budget for the establishment of the authority. The president's understanding of the establishment of the authority is not necessarily government using its own resources, but government looking beyond and making sure that there's going to be some level of partnership. Now, one of the reasons why we lost on our minerals in terms of what we have is that we've not been able to establish the quantity, the possible and the probable values of those minerals. This time, the president is saying, quantify it. Let's know what we have. If you know what you have, you'll be able to, give it out. And so in terms of participation, because we have already identified what we have, we're going to partner with other companies to construct the refinery. We have a smelter already there sitting up in Tema. So the issue and what is missing in the value chain is that the refinery. We get the smelter, we look for a power source, and then off we are gone. And I think that alone can trigger the growth of this country. It is estimated to contribute no less than billions of dollars to this country's growth.
All right. Hope that that particular partnership will not be to our detriment and lead to the little contributions that other minerals have been making to.
I think it's one of the flagship projects for His Excellency.
All right.
And he's not going to leave it out at all.
Which other mineral are we seeking to pursue in the year 2018?
We are also looking at iron ore.
Okay.
We have started extensive explorations, for instance, in the Volta region.
Does it look good?
It looks good. The potentials are quite great.
Commercial quantities?
Commercial quantities have been established.
How much are we looking at?
We're now doing the delineations to see the all alignments, and the Geological Survey Authority will come out with the quantities that we expected. We have also examined other lesser known minerals, clay products, jasper, and all those other things, which are of course of commercial quantity. So next year, I think good things will be coming out.
Salt. Do you have plans of mining salt, improving Songo, for instance?
Songo salt. Yes, of course. There have been a long history of that project. Currently, the committee is still handling it at the local district level, but we have had some interest group who are coming up, in terms of revamping the place. So, of course, salt is also something. It could be a game changer for this country, especially if we have to look at our, oil sector, the contributions of salt to the oil sector. The salt is something that we need to look at, and I think we have to put some concentration on it.
What are the other programs that the ministry has in place for 2018?
The ministry in 2018 actually want to come out with what we call, in terms of regulations, we want to come out with local content regulations for the mining sector, which we have not had for a long time. We also want to come with a revenue management law in terms of regulations and regulatory mechanism to address the revenues from the mining sector, just similar to what happens in the oil and gas sector. So we want to have a mining revenue, law, which will direct how the mining revenues will be used and which sectors would be allocated to. Similarly, like these are the two big things that we're looking at. But massive project we want to undertake is afforestation.
Yeah.
Trying to revamp our forest under the forest improvement program and bring the forest to certain standard, and also embark aggressively on these reclamations, sanitizations of the small-scale mining, and make sure that we bring the small-scale miners back to the land to work. But as for the river, there's a complete ban on people to work on the river bodies.
That's permanent ban?
Yes, permanent ban.
My final question in this particular case will be, we've talked a lot about the natural resources. Now, when would it be possible for me to just register my land in a day?
Turnaround times for land registrations, it's something the MPP administration, especially under His Excellency Nana-Addo, is looking at seriously. If you look into our manifesto,
I want to register my land in a day.
Our manifesto, we promise Ghanaians 30 days. Currently, they've been able to move from 7 months to about 5 months. We know there are still lapses there.
When will it be available in 30 days?
We are trying to involve the private sector in the land administration processes. And we think that immediately that is done, we will do that. We're going to put in an advert inviting private sector to handle. If you travel around maybe the South Africa region, South Africa, most of the emerging countries, even Rwanda, the private sector is highly involved. We have had Lab 1, Lab 2, which has run for several years now, more than 50,
and some of us don't see any real change
$50 million has gone into that project. We haven't seen any benefit, and this alone that the government have to pay. So we want to involve the private sector. Private sector have a very critical role to play. And we think if they are involved in the land title administration processes, this Ghana
will help the government achieve the 1 month aim.
We should be able to achieve it. It's been done before, and it's done in other countries before.
It's been done here in Ghana?
Not in Ghana, not at all. It's been done in other places before. Right. And so why can't we do it? And it's not something we're going to think about. We just go and lift it and come and put and do the same thing. In terms of the...
There are no langas there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The regimes may
situation is different.
But we should be able to
land ownership structures are also seemingly different anyway.
I agree with you.
Well, I think we got tied the nice ribbons on today's show. And thank you so much for joining us. You are a very busy man. It's been very difficult grabbing you for a sitting of this sort for so many months anyway. But thanks so much for joining us on this day's edition of Upfront. And many thanks to you folks for joining us on our very Thursday edition of Upfront. We'll leave it off here.
Thank you.